Okay, hello. So I'm doing some more testing on my new video card, trying to just see what's going on. I've kind of reached some limitations between running Microsoft Flight Simulator and OBS, my streaming gear. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to do a flight from Orlando to Atlanta. So let's see how it goes. I'm in the Vision Jet, the Cirrus Vision SF50, and let's kind of get it set up. So I'm going to check a couple things here real quick. Let's go ahead and jump in. And make sure that everything is working. And actually, we'll go ahead and bring that up, and we'll actually bring... Just leave it like that. And so I've already kind of got it started. We'll do a direct to, and we'll select waypoint. KATL. Enter. Activate. And looking over there, you can See the magenta line, so that seemed to work. Go ahead and go back to my normal view. So get ForeFlight dialed up so I can get onto the taxi. Check all my views. Awesome. Thanks for subscribing, Joe. All right. So just doing a check here. Flaps seem to be working. That's working. Everything's going fine. Get back in the plane. Let's go ahead and brakes off. Get a little movement here. I'm going to keep it real time, but I'm not keeping it real weather. I don't want to do that. It's not a bat sim flight, so it's just going to be me. And I'm still not quite used to the Cirrus. I've been spending a lot of time in the G2 helicopter, which is just tons of fun. And in just a little bit, I'm going to pull up my frames counter. So this card that I just got is the Strix RTX 4070 Ti, and coming from a 3080 Ti. And the reason that I wanted to go ahead and upgrade is because I wanted to get in on the DLSS 3. Alright. Normally I would just hold at that and go through some more checks, but I am not doing that. That's not good. That guy coming or going. I think he's facing the wrong way given the wind, but that's okay. We'll just go around and... Hey, Mr. Big Airplane guy. And y'all behind it, y'all don't mind me. I'm just a little Cirrus. Y'all looking good. Y'all look real good. All right. Rotate. Landing gear. Start trimming it out. I didn't have my speed bugs up and going. So I'm going to make my turn. So a lot going on. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up. It's not my favorite thing to run. I hardly ever run it, but I am going to do it for now. And that's the FPS counter. I was having a lot of issues with my stream while with Microsoft. I was also having some issues with my internet that I was not aware of. They had to come out and physically repair some of the wiring. This thing climbs, that is for sure. I'm going to get it closer to the magenta line. We'll just intercept. And in a little while here, I'm going to get the autopilot dialed in. All right, this is going to get me to kind of intercept. I'm going to dial back a little bit on my throttle. The first time I flew out on this thing, I torqued it out or whatever, and it exploded in midair, and it's never the way to be. And I can see that I am getting close to my intercept here. I'm going to go ahead engage the autopilot. Let's put this thing at about 7,000. Alright, let's see what happens here. It's looking pretty good. Let me readjust ForeFlight, and now the magenta line on ForeFlight is more or less lined up with the magenta line on Microsoft. I wish that part got transmitted over, but it does not. So here's what's different. And let me make sure this is all working. See how this goes. So what I've done is I've increased my bit rate for my upload from 9 to 15,000. I've increased my frame rate from 30 to 60. This is OBS. And I have changed my settings in my graphics card to basically DLSS. And I'm just trying to get a feel for how it's going. Now, right now it is 30 to 40 frames. And I believe I have it on the medium setting. I'm going to switch that. Actually, I'm going to switch that. And we'll go to Ultra, but I am going to go ahead. Well, let's just see what happens when I do that. Yikes. So that's a big drop. So, and clearly I am running out of CPU power, limited by main thread, and it's just red. And so, but I never use this gauge. I mean, hardly ever use it. So let's change some settings here. And what we'll do is we'll go to, nope, that's not what I want. Sorry. We'll go down to high end And that changes that. And all right, let's try that. I'd like to try to at least get 30 frames and see how this goes. So estimated time is a little over an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes. And I'm on autopilot and 35 frames, not at ultra, which is disappointing. Now, when I fly just me and I'm not streaming, then it handles ultra perfectly well, which it actually more or less kind of did with the 3080 Ti. I had to dial back on the level of detail just a little bit. But when I first installed this card yesterday, I did a lot of flying in it, and I just had it straight ultra, no problems. And it's not so much that I'm worried about frame rate, it's stutters. Stutters is what bothers me. Now, when you're in the helicopter and you're trying to do flying around the city and there's a lot of scene changing, that's when that really shows up. So I'm saying that right now, as it stands, the card was a good call. And looking at my stream health, it's pretty healthy, it's saying on YouTube, and I do not appear to be dropping any frames. So I'm very, very happy with this. I'm gonna keep the weather like it is. I was thinking about changing the weather up to see what I could do to stress this. What is the actual weather? Let's just kind of play with it. I hit live. All right, look at that. I wish it would just go back to the last thing you did. It's building storms. Yikes, that's scary. That's even scarier. Alright, we'll go back to clear. Clear's more fun because you can just see. Alright, there we go. So I definitely could not have done this frame rate with the 3080. Now, here's the thing. I'm only running 1080p, and some of you guys are out there with 4K or 2K and crushing it. But I 4K for me, I'm just not there yet. I couldn't stream 4K. There'd be no point in it. But I have wanted to play 4K. I've got a 4K monitor, but I've not tried to play to do 4K in a while. Autopilot is the bomb. Jump outside the plane for a little bit and see what's what. That's a good shot. That's cool. That's really cool. Bring in a little tunes. I like flying with tunes. Not in real life, but here I do. So I'm not in the beta program, but I am excited about the avionics updates that are coming out, and I believe some of them are going to be geared towards the Cirrus stuff, and that'll be awesome. The common Garmin things, the 580, the 3000, the 5000, I don't know what order, but anytime there's an avionics upgrade or update, that just increases the robustness of the platform, and I think that's awesome. And the more that happens, I just think the better it works out for the whole community. I think people that are actual pilots with some experience will be able to give the developer some level of feedback that will have some validity to it that some of us just can't, offer. Now, given I'm not worried about the weather, we'll probably try to put it down on either .27 or 2.8. maybe T7 left, or 2.8. I think that would be the way to go. Here's a quick view of my setup. You can see my computer to the right, my panels, my Roadcaster, Honeycomb Bravo, Honeycomb Alpha, my Thrustmaster pendulum pedals. That is iPad running ForeFlight. A little bit harder to see, but over to the left, my WinWing throttle base, which I'm not using as a throttle, but it's got tons of switches and buttons on it that can be used for different things, although I'm only using a handful. Air Manager does, by and large, 80% of the buttons and switches I'm using through Air Manager. There's quite a bit of traffic out there today, so that's cool. A lot of people flying. I don't know if VATSIM traffic flow shows up on here when it's not a VATSIM network. I don't think it does, but right now there's a lot of planes up there. This is only showing basically Microsoft stuff. So I'm still in Florida. It looks like I'm approaching the South Georgia border here. I am not at the level yet where I can start programming stars and SIDS. That is my next block of instruction for sure. I'm taking a online instrument class. Thought I'd brighten it up a little bit. I was going to keep it real time, but I want to see how the graphic card is doing. Right now, this is all ultra settings, no other adjustment. It's DLSS. Let's see. Super resolution set to auto, but I'm on DLSS, and everything here is set to ultra, so I haven't adjusted any of that. Now, if I were to pull the frame counter up, I guarantee you it'd be in the low 20s. And the concern is not the frames, but stuttering. I don't care about frame rate until it starts causing stuttering. Anything above 24 is fine. Most movies are 24, so I'm not worried about that. Now, the problem is when you're simming and streaming from the same machine. So I really wanted to see what DLSS 3 would offer, and it has made a difference. Not a huge difference, but it has made a difference. And the question then becomes, if you're thinking about upgrading, so I upgraded from the 3080 Ti to the 4070 Ti, which is apparently supposed to be a different version of the 4080, and then people called out NVIDIA on that. And so they rebranded it, and now it's the 4070 Ti. You take out DLSS, it's fairly close to a 3080. I don't know that it's a 3080 killer, but then you add DLSS, and you get DLSS 3 versus DLSS 2. And so that may make a difference, especially if you're streaming. And I don't use, AMD cards because I think OBS streams better with NVIDIA. So I'm just going to stick with that. But if you're thinking about upgrading and you have a 3000 series card, unless it's like a low, like a 3060 or something, then I would say stick with your card, especially if you paid pandemic pricing on it. Then you're not going to get anything. I mean, at some point you're going to take a bath, unless you just hold on to it, and then you can just keep it as a backup and upgrade your card to a 4, perhaps by that time a 5000 series card. All right, I am approaching the South Georgia border. So I really like this plane. It is very simple to fly. It's just laid out very, very well. All of these screens can basically, somewhat duplicate each other. So this can be primary or MFD or NavCom. This can be MFD or NavCom. So PFD or NavCom. I typically leave this here. I don't play with this one a whole lot. This one will go back and forth between MFD and NavCom. And I have these panels, 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, duplicated to where I've got the 2 large ones and the 2 displays here, and I can, through Touch Manager, I can do all of that. So another cool feature I like about Microsoft, and if you're not using like a Track IR or similar device or VR, using the smart camera, you can basically program the smart camera to pick up on different landmarks and runways and things like that. And as you get closer, it'll hone in on the closest airport. And that's super handy when you're trying to do like pattern work or anything like that. So I can't recommend that, getting familiar with that enough. You can have it to where it'll toggle through different landmarks or airports, and you can go to the previous target, the next target, and that's pretty cool. So this is by far the largest bit rate I have uploaded with OBS. And we'll see how right now I'm just going straight. Probably not as much number crunching going on, and that's why it's doing okay with ultra settings. But we'll see how that works when I look at the stream after the fact, or when we get close to the airport and I'm having to make turns and things like that. There shouldn't have to be a whole lot of turns, because I'm basically going to come in basically from the southeast. The runways at Atlanta are all basically east-west or west-east, depending on which way you're coming from. It's not locking on. There we go. It's kind of locking on. I'm cycling through targets for the smart camera and everything. I'm too far away from anything to lock onto at this, so it's not going to do anything. Look up the ILS stuff for Atlanta and see, maybe have some fun with that. So if I do runway 28. So it does look like, so the localizer for runway 28 is 11.75. So I'll go to my radio, navigation radio. So I'll do it from here, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. I am nav 1, and I'm gonna 11175, enter. Now it is my dialed in and chosen nav, and when we get closer I'll use that and see how that goes. So I have not tried using ILS with the Garmin 3000. I'm assuming it's similar to the G1000, but I've not done it. So we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I'll just treat it like a VFR landing. What I'm not seeing on here is a very easy way to keep track of what your navigation frequency is. If you guys know how to do that, feel free to let me know. I can come over here and do that and just leave it like that. But I don't like that. It seems like there'd be a better way to do it from here somewhere. Got COM 1 and COM 1 and COM 2. Well, I guess this shows all the frequencies. Alright, I guess that's one way to do it. Just leave it up like that, I guess. And then whatever you need to dial in, you got all the things. Okay, so I like that. Alright, that's alright. So I can leave it like that. Still not close enough, I guess. Oh, nope, there's a smart view. So it's locked onto something. I don't know what. I suspect there's a couple of airports off in that direction. It's probably one of them. Could be KEZM or perhaps KWRB. Those are both off in that general direction. Saying about 40 minutes left in the flight, and it looks like ForeFlight and Microsoft are agreeing on the estimate. So that's kind of neat. This is a pretty good display. It's got all the good information. And on my Air Manager panel, it's right here in front of me, and so I can see it really easily. And again, this just has decreased my need or dependency on my Logitech panels, but I still have them, so I'm still going to use them. And I'm definitely now in Georgia for sure. I'm in South Georgia. That's not bad. 35 while on ultra settings. Anything above 30 for me is a win. But I'm not doing anything. I'm just flying straight. It's not having to really calculate anything. So, well, you know, other than the thousands of per second calculations that it's doing. Just playing with the weather. Since Autopilot's doing all the work, I'm studying to be an instrument pilot. Yeah. Got a nice little haze to it. Try that. Oh, it's kind of nice. About 30 minutes out. So again, this is all set on Ultra, and I believe I set it on Ultra. Yep. Everything is set to Ultra, so we'll see how it does. I'm happy with this purchase. I guess, you know, I could have held out and maybe try to get the 4080. The 4090 is really hard to find, or not really hard to find, but it can be hard to find. And I'm not paying $2,000 for a card. I don't have that kind of dough. All right, there's an airport up to the left. Let's see if Smart Cam picks that up. Yep. So again, if you guys aren't using the Smart Camera, I think it's bound to S on the keyboard if you don't change anything. I've got it bound to on the numeric pad, I've got it bound to 8, and it'll cycle through targets, and it's usually either landmarks or airports, and if you're close to one, it'll go through that, then you can go to the next one. There's something behind me that it thinks is important, something off in that direction that it thinks is important. It's a great view, especially when you're trying to land. I will sometimes lock it on and it'll pick the runway, and I can turn and the screen will kind of stay, and that's kind of more like real life. I just have not been successful with like track IR and all that. It just feels weird. I may have to revisit that decision though. All right, I'm about 6,670 feet above ground. GPS altitude is saying 7,000, which is, this is all from ForeFlight, and that seems to be matching with Microsoft. So I'm gonna bring it down to about 5,000. Do about 500 feet. And that way I'm not having to drop a whole lot right when I get there. And I want to kind of get under these clouds. Yeah, I just want to get a little closer to the ground. Okay, we're getting even closer. About 25 minutes out. I'm going to drop it down even a little more. Okay, I'm about 3,700 feet AGL. Still about 20 minutes out. I'm going to land on runway 28. Even a little bit lower. Maybe another 400 feet. Just to the right of me is Robbins, Warner Robins. I think that's an Air Force base. And then Middle Georgia Regional. And I'm going to wait a little bit before I head to the north, although I guess I could do that right now. Do that now. So BSTT. So let's come over here. I'm going to reprogram this. To BESTT. So STT, enter, activate. And that's going to take me a little more straight north. And that should line me up with runway 28. I'm going to stay at this altitude for now. And then maybe right before I get to that waypoint, I'll drop down a little bit more. Unless I'm just in these clouds the whole way. About 19 minutes out. $65 nautical miles. And then what I'll do is when I get to that waypoint, I'll change it over and head in pretty much straight west for runway 28. trying to add a waypoint. I still have not done a flight plan on this, so I need to work on that. And that's would have been the better way to do it, is just have all that programmed in advance, and then Autopilot would have taken me right there. So I tried to add ATL as a destination with BSTT as a waypoint. Didn't work. Or the way I did it didn't work. I'm sure it works, I just didn't do it right. So about 19 minutes out still. 53 nautical miles. Now that's to the waypoint. But I'm moving at a pretty good clip, 236 knots. It's no joke. It's way faster than my Cessna. Not that I have a Cessna. The Cessna I fly in sometimes. It's not mine. I wish it was. I am not familiar with the terrain, and there's always the chance that I'll be too low, in which case I'll have to gain altitude and do a missed approach, but that's all right. And again, some of the things I'm doing are using my touch panel monitors. I've got the radio set up here where I can see all the frequencies. But I've also got my Logitech panels. I was kind of knocking on them in the video, but I've got them and they're cool. I just know I don't think I'd buy them if I didn't have them. And so I've made some adjustments from here, and I'm also using the top of my Bravo. I'm going to drop a little more altitude. nice thing about the Cirrus Jet versus, say, the Cessna 172, if you're doing stuff like this, you can do it in a reasonable amount of time. Trying to do long flights in the Cessna is really, well, it's long. Although I still think the Cessna is one of the more fun planes to fly. I just wish they would I wish somebody would make a full-on study level 172 from Microsoft. I love the Airfoil Labs NG Digital for X-Plane. That's a great plane. I wish they would make something like that for Microsoft. Step outside. Oh, that's a great shot. And if I knew how to do screenshots, I would. That'd be an awesome one. There we go. Look at that. That's awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch from GPS navigation to heading navigation, and I'm going to go a little bit more in a westerly direction. I think that waypoint is it's kind of a little too far east. That's more for bigger planes. So I'm going to switch this over to heading. We'll try a heading of 330. And I also have this pulled up on my ForeFlight tablet, so I've got my former route, so I'm kind of eyeballing it off of that. And then I have Atlanta teed up as a direct to. And then I can just hit that and punch it in and it should head straight there. And now I'm looking, there's a ton of planes heading into Atlanta. That's awesome. So Atlanta's about 1,000 feet. Getting pretty close to my intercept where I'm going to basically turn due west. So clearly my next task is to learn how to enter in flight plans to the Garmin 580. That'd be fun, flying directly into the sun. We'll see how that affects the vision while flying in division. Not quite there yet. All right, now my nav radio is picking up. And in just a little while here, I'm going to come off of Autopilot. Okay, so autopilot is off. And I kind of went way too far north. So I'm going to kind of have to hook it around to get back on track. 428. And that's all right. So just trying to trim it out. About 1,000 feet above airport elevation. Adding a little flap. Landing gear down. And I am probably kind of low if I'm seeing those PAPI lights correctly. There we go. I've got one light. Now I'm kind of high. I can just reduce power. And full flaps. Definitely too high. Got 4 white lights. There we go. There's a red.
500.
I'm having a very hard time trimming this thing out.
Stop. Stop.
I am stalling. All right, let's get off this runway. Yeah, that was very hard to control. Like, I was having a hard time. The trim wasn't responding. So I'm just going to stop it right here. And put on the brake. And power everything down. And get that screen. All right, well, I just wanted to get to go through that and see, trying out this new card. I've got a lot to work on, a lot to dial in. I don't think those ultra settings worked close to the ground. I think there was some stuttering there still, but that's while streaming. If I'm not streaming, I don't get that. I still want to try to find a good, happy balance. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. I'll be having some more stuff coming out. I've got some more interviews lined